How is it going? Um, probably sounded stupid, but whatever. So, not in my last video, but because the last video was the Hobbit review, but in the video before I explained how I'm kind of not restarting my channel, but getting back to it, I guess, after being away for so long. And in that time, I did read quite a few books that I did not talk about. And part of me wanted to make individual reviews for each of those books, but there really isn't any reason why uh, for me to do that because I've read those books. I don't really feel a strong urge to talk about them anymore. The hype is gone, but I still want to talk about them. So that's what this video is. This is going to be a recap video, not a recap video, but a catch-up video. Because it would be beneficial for me to make a video for each of these books, but I'm not doing this for the views or whatever. I'm just doing this for fun, but I still want to talk about these books and catch up, I guess. So, the last book that I reviewed on this channel, or talked about, I reviewed it, I don't know, was The Lost Causes of Bleak Creek by Rhett and Link. That was the last book I reviewed, and yeah, I've read a lot of stuff in between that time. Compared to some people, I read like, I don't know, 2 months worth. Maybe I'm overestimating, but I just want to talk about the stuff that I read in that time. This is going to be spoiler free. They're just going to be like little quick mini reviews of those books. So first, I read the Gentleman Bastard series. The Lives of Locke Lamora was great. I loved it. It was super funny, and I don't want to call it a mystery, but there's like a suspense, a game going on that's just really fun to watch. I pitch it as Death Note, but it's Pirates of the Caribbean. Probably a really bad comparison, but that's kind of the vibe I had, and I loved it. And then, of course, the next book, Red Seas Under Red Skies, Here Comes My Cat. That one was even more so. I mean, they're literally on boats, but there's kind of like the quote-unquote big brain stuff happening, right? So it feels, it's very smart and witty, and it's funny, and then also very emotional too. I really, really love the friendship between Locke and John. Very fun to read, and yeah, I got through that series pretty quickly. It was just, I love it. I absolutely adore the writing style and the way that the characters are written. It's just, at this point, this was my first fantasy series. I had read Lord of the Rings a little bit before, but this was my first fantasy series, and I loved it. It was amazing. So, yeah. And then Republic of Thieves, I think that might have been my favorite one because it leans into the like, we're playing a game, we're trying to outsmart each other thing. And yeah, I loved it. And we got to explore more of the characters through the flashbacks and stuff. I hope that's not considered a spoiler. I don't think it would be. But yeah, I loved it. I don't want to say too much. I don't want this video to be too long. That's all I'll say. I loved it. It really, some people don't like the third book as much, and it's a valid reason why most people give. I still loved it just as much. It's a great book. I love the play aspect of it too. Yeah, so fun to read. I actually listened to the audiobook for that one, and just fantastic. I loved it. After that, I read Small Gods, which is a fantasy book as well. So that it's a Discworld book, if you aren't aware. And I read that one because I believe Daniel Green recommended that. Sorry. I believe Daniel Green recommended that as a starting place. I could be mixing that up. But basically, it's a slightly lighthearted critique of organized religion. And I think it did it very well. And also, like, respectfully, I would say it isn't. Um, it is kind of almost open ended the way you can interpret it, and I think that's great. It isn't like just bashing stuff. It's things to consider, and it's funny. It's very funny to read. Uh, I listened to the audiobook done by Andy Serkis. Phenomenal, phenomenal. I loved it. Um, but yeah, great story. Very, very whimsical. It was sometimes I'm not into the whimsical stuff too much, like or absurd stuff, but I loved it in this book. It's so vivid to me, and yeah, I can't wait to read another Discworld book, even though it's gonna be a while before I read one. It was amazing, and it's a standalone book. I loved all the characters. Yeah, what I was blown away by that book. That's probably one of my favorite books now. Yeah. After that, I read the Murderbot series. I haven't read the new one yet. That is, I got to read that soon. But I read all six of the previous ones before the new one. I think there was also a short story in there. I didn't read that. I loved Murderbot as well. Absolutely loved it. The character is so endearing and also unique that I mean I can't really say anything that hasn't been said, but it's just my thoughts really. I felt such a strong connection to this character that wasn't even human, and yeah, I just loved everything. I just loved being in this character's head and like experiencing things through them. And then also on top of that, this book is also the action is actually pretty good. Like I was um, on the edge of my seat a lot of times, just with the action and the suspense. Also, I feel like this book is kind of not given enough credit for the like sci-fi elements. It's always the character is so great, which is true. The character is great, but there's some like really cool sci-fi elements in this, especially like computer related sci-fi stuff that was just really cool to me. It was pretty technical at some points, but in a way that I could easily get what was being said, and it was just so cool. I don't know. It's such a great series, and yeah, I absolutely love it, and it's pretty like different from sci-fi I've read a lot, where it's very humorous. It actually like the humor kind of reminds me of Gentlemen Bastards in a way where it's just very personal humor, and yeah, it's amazing. I love that series so much. Next, I read Girl in the Blue Coat, which is a young adult historical fiction. And I can't really say this anymore. I usually would say I don't really go for young adult. Uh, really, that's because I read one that I really, really, really didn't like a while ago, and that kind of just left a bad taste in my mouth for young adult as a whole. But this one was really good. Um, it is about a it takes place in, I don't know if it's Holland specifically, but it's in the Netherlands during the Nazi occupation. So it's very serious and it maintains that tone well. And basically the main character is trying to find a missing girl. I believe it's a Jewish girl who has been taken by the Nazis, and she's also like the morality in this book, morality. I don't know why that sounded weird for a second. The morality in this book is actually really really interesting. I don't think this is a spoiler, but basically she it I'm trying to, I know there's some mystery about it, but basically her boyfriend that she was very very like in love with, it went to war and died, and so she's kind of doing this. My cat is going crazy right now. She's just jumping all over the place. What are you doing? um but she's kind of using this as a way to like fight back a little bit. I believe it's been a while since I've read it, but she, yeah, that, I mean, it's great. I liked it. I don't know how historically accurate it was, but it felt accurate to me based on what I know. And also, my grandmother is from the Netherlands, and so it was kind of interesting to kind of see what it was like at the time. Obviously, not her time, but um, still, it definitely influenced my family quite a bit. What happened? So also like there's these Dutch cookies. I can't remember what they're called, but they're like little waffle cookies, and they mention that in the book, and I had eaten those a ton, and that was just so cool to me. I don't know. I just loved seeing like, hey, that I didn't really grow up eating those, but I ate those a lot. They were just fun snacks, so it was cool seeing that. Yeah, I can't really say it's like my favorite or anything, but it was very, very good. And it left me feeling things. I have to say that. Like, it, the tone got pretty dark, but it made me also like very amazed at how much people were willing to give up for other people, because there was like this whole underground network that allowed some people to escape the Nazis and allowed goods to be traveled in secret. And it was very dangerous to be involved with this, but people still did it anyway, and they still kind of made their own, like they still fought back in any way that they could, even if it was in small ways. And that was really amazing to me. That really, and it is based on a real thing that happened. Not the characters in this book particularly, but this like kind of thing that was happening, this like underground network and stuff. And that really, like, I don't know, that hit me pretty hard. It was good. I really liked it. Next, A Man Called Ove. Oh boy, whoa, man, that book. It was. That's probably one of my favorite books too, because whew, man, I that one gave me a good cry. I almost like, what the heck? Are you kidding me? Like, jeez, that I don't know what it is. It's the writing style that he has, um, and just like the rawness of it, the humanity in it is just incredible, and it's very endearing, but also funny. The characters are just amazing. Oh man, that was incredible. Yeah, I don't want to say, just read that book. Read that book. It is amazing. I loved it so much. I want to reread it. Yeah. But also I kind of don't, because, oof, man, that book hurt a little bit. But in a good way, a little bit, kind of. Yeah. Um, Scythe. That's what I read next. I read the first Scythe book by Neil Shusterman. That is actually another young adult series, but I firmly kind of believe that it maybe I think really what makes it young adult is the writing style, and the lack of technicality in it. But other than that, like, I don't know. I feel like calling it young adult is really unfair, because it turns a lot of people off from it, and you come in with an inherent bias a lot of time, depending on how you feel about the genre. And also, I feel like it doesn't fit that well, so a lot of people are disappointed by some of the stuff that happens in the series, especially in the later book. But I loved it. I loved all three books. I I love all three of them for different reasons, but I think the first one did the best job about talking about death. Um, it's the book. I didn't really say, but basically, it's in this. I call it a utopian world where humanity has conquered death. Um, Basically, unless your body is burned, or you are gleaned by a scythe, you can be revived. And that's kind of the thing there, is that there are scythes that kill people to manage the population, specifically the number of the population. And I think what's so brilliant about this first book, especially, is it's kind of like there's this commentary about how, um, like, these characters are looking past in the past at our time, and they're like, wow, these people are so like passionate about things, they live so fully, and it's kind of hinted that that's because we know we're going to die. And also there's also this part of it where humanity has controlled death, and these scythes are kind of terrifying, right? Because they can just, you could be walking in the street and one could walk up and stab you in the heart and you're dead, and that's it. And it's like, whoa, that's scary. But when you come to realize it, that's actually how real life is. You don't know when you're going to die. It's not a planned thing. You are going. Um, for some people they live. They can guess when they're going to die, but a lot of times you don't know when you're going to die. It just happens, and that book kind of very subtly comments on that in a brilliant way. So after I read the first Scythe book, I tried to read the posthumous memoirs of Brock Kubas. I read this book specifically because Murphy Napier recommended it. I could not get into this book. I felt really bad because a lot of people just talked up this book a lot, and I do think there is some brilliance in it, and this is like one of the greatest writers from Brazil. But there's like a love triangle in there that I just didn't care about. I didn't find it to be that funny. I think a lot of my lack of enjoyment for this book is my lack of understanding of the context that this book was written in, because I think there's some satirical elements in there, and if you don't understand the context around a satirical work, you're not gonna find it funny. So yeah, I think that's why I didn't really like it. I just didn't really care about the characters. Um, they're Yeah, I just didn't. It wasn't for me. I might try it again, but I just don't. I don't know. I wasn't into it. That's all I gotta say. I don't really think I can't. I can't give a specific reason from the book other than I didn't care about the characters and I didn't find it that funny, which is what I was expecting. And I think that's my fault, not really the book's fault. Not my fault, but that's because of my own taste, not because of the book specifically. So after that, I read The Thunderhead and The Toll. I kind of already talked about those, but The Thunderhead is amazing, and so is The Toll. The Toll is very complex. Well, I shouldn't say very. Compared to the first book, especially, and also the second book, The Toll is a pretty complex book. There's a lot of different viewpoints. There's a lot of different moving plot threads, and I ultimately think it was wrapped up very well. It is a outstanding ending, in my opinion. Um, and yeah, I love that book. I think there's a lot of criticism because it it uh, it increased in complexity compared to the previous two books, but I thought it was great. I loved all the characters too. The especially the side characters too. I like the character Grayson, and I can't remember the captain's name, but I really like them. They're a great character. Yeah, I don't really have much else to say because I don't want to spoil it, but it was great. I loved it, and yeah, that's actually it. That's now I'm at the Hobbit, and that is the last thing that I read that wasn't reviewed because the review's up now. And next, I will review The Lord of the Rings, and yeah, The Silmarillion. I'll review that. It's going to be a little bit before I get to that one because I will be reading Project Hail Mary in between, which I've already reviewed. And then after that, I will get to Dune, which I've already reviewed, but I'm going to reread it. And I maybe it's wrong for me to say, but I think I'm gonna almost force myself to like it because I love the movie so much, and I kind of have a different perspective on it now. Maybe that's wrong. I don't know. We'll talk about it later. But I'm gonna read the first four books at least, and yeah, we'll go from there. So that's kind of been my wrap up. I really didn't feel like as much books as I thought. It's kind of disappointing. That's all I read in 2023. I think that's when I stopped making videos.
All right, so I'm doing a Daniel Green style interjection here. That isn't actually all I read. I read all of Berserk, first of all, which is not a small series. And then I also read quite a few nonfiction books during that time. So I read Letters from a Stoic by Seneca. I read The Meditations by Marcus Aurelius. I reread Can't Hurt Me by David Goggins. I read The Psychology of Money by Morgan Housel. I reread How to Win Friends and Influence People. I also started reading the Enchiridion and works, or whatever it's called, the complete works by Epictetus. I didn't finish it just because, I don't know, I felt like I was just getting through it instead of trying to really understand it. Uh, so yeah, and then I also read this other book called Building a Story Brand by Donald Miller. Um, so yeah, I did read some other stuff, and also textbooks too for my classes. I didn't like read through them all the way, but you know what I mean. So yeah, that wasn't all I read. That there was some other stuff in there, but in terms of fiction books, that is all I read. There was also some other manga here and there that I've read in that time. Like I've read Vagabond a little bit, and I read Uzumaki, which I don't think I talked about. So yeah, there has been some other stuff. I might talk about the nonfiction stuff more later, but I plan on rereading most of it anyway, so I'll probably just talk about it when I reread it. And yeah, I've already said what I said about Berserk. I might talk about it, might not, but we'll see. But yeah, I've read other stuff. Just wanted to interject here. Um, Back to the video, I guess.
So it was a really busy year for me, though. Very busy, very, very busy. So, yeah, that's what I read, and I hope you enjoyed this video. And yeah, more smaller reviews going forward, although I might do like wrap up videos depending on how much I read. I think if I read more than 3 books a month, in a month, I will do a wrap up video. Any less than that, and I don't think it's really necessary, I can do individual videos in that time. So, yeah, thanks for watching, and leave me a comment. Let me know what you thought of anything I said, and I would absolutely love to read it and respond to it and leave a like and all that stuff that's annoying to say and hear. And yeah, see you later.